Let me start off this video by bragging for a second, because I'm sure that's what you want to hear, is me bragging. That typically is what you like to hear someone else do. I had George Pickens as one of my favorite receivers in last year's draft class. I thought he should have gone in the first round. He didn't, went in round 2, but I think now has shown that he should have been thought of as a much better prospect than we actually thought of him as. And so what happened? How does someone like me, who is actually terrible at evaluating wide receivers, how did I figure out George Pickens? What did I see? And just what should we have seen in hindsight? And what did I go, when I went back and watched more tape, what did we kind of miss? And also, what has he just gotten better at the NFL level? And where can his career go from here? Plenty to talk about, so let's start talking about it. Right off the bat, you look at his Pro Football Focus page, and it's actually kind of a wonder why he's been so successful. Now, keep in mind, barely any playing time in 2021. The production wasn't particularly great in 2022. In fact, it was very much subpar, and really, it's 2019. That's the main tape you're looking at. That's the main production he had at the college level, was his ability, in 2019. So, at least according to PFF. Again, not everyone's cup of tea, Pro Football Focus, but it does a pretty good job, I would say, at measuring just overall production. So, right off the bat, you look at this and say, well, yeah, this guy shouldn't have been a first rounder. He just happened to get better at the NFL level. But one thing I do think is worth mentioning is PFF grades at the wide receiver position do not do a great job at translating to the NFL levels. One of those positions that, again, you'd like a guy to have a better PFF grade than a worse PFF grade, but there's far better indicators of future success than PFF grades at the wide receiver position. Other positions, it's a very good indicator of future success. But let's look at what happened at the NFL level. As you see, the grade isn't spectacular or anything. A 68.8 grade is solid. It's not something that you're going to write home about, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because a solid PFF grade as a rookie is still pretty impressive. Again, just to put it into context, he was PFF's 52nd rated wide receiver out of 113 wide receivers. So we're talking, they considered him sort of a mid-tier number 2 receiver, which for a rookie is very impressive. And, his grade was was actually within a point of where Deontay Johnson was graded last year. So just to put that into even more perspective, it's a good rookie year for sure. A great rookie year, really. So if we go back and watch some of his college film, I know we're starting this play already in the middle of a play. I went back and just watched some of his highlights from last year, and to be honest, not a lot of great college highlight reel stuff from George Pickens. Not sure exactly why, but anyway, you see that it is a one-on-one matchup here on the outside, and this was one of the things that I liked about Pickens a lot, is it's hard to get receivers who you feel comfortable can win on the outside. He is someone who was able to do it in college, a lot of times with explosiveness. Watch how he creates enough separation, and also just has good ball skills to be able to track that one and make sort of a, somewhat of a diving catch, almost like a falling catch might be the better way to phrase that. These are the kind of things that Pickens did consistently at the college level, was just win on the outside, and that's what you like about him, and that's what I liked about him, and what the Steelers liked about him. And again, also worth mentioning, I think, just the Steelers' philosophy in drafting receivers tends to be get guys in rounds 2 and 3 who have just as good of a hit rate as guys in rounds 1. Receiver, very difficult position to evaluate, so don't be afraid to get your 4th favorite receiver if that's what the value, of that pick indicates. But this is another example of, I just thought that he moved very well, and again, found ways to win. And one thing that I also want to mention, I think this play is a good play to mention it, is, you talk about the PFF grades. I think that his play style actually works against the Pro Football Focus grades, because, I'll show why on this play, where it's a one-on-one matchup. You see where he is on the screen. And watch how when this play begins, it's in slow, bit of slow motion here. They're not just running very slowly, but he gets the outside leverage. He has a very good understanding of leverage and understanding how to give a quarterback a window to make the throw. So if the throw does go to the outside, he should be good. As you see, there is a ball that he can adjust to, and he makes, again, a good falling catch and is able to get a touchdown on that play. The thing about Pickens is a lot of his wins sort of came of that variety, where he's not necessarily the guy who is getting wide open. He's not getting a ton of separation, but he's also the kind of guy who is sort of always open, it seems. He can find a way to get to the football. I think that's part of what makes him good, but also if you're a PFF grader, you do have to kind of say, okay, on some plays where he's not getting separation, the ball doesn't go his way. Well, that hurts his PFF grade, even though if the ball did come his way, perhaps he could have still found a way to make the catch, which is why just sort of his play style might not work well for that, system of, for that stat basically, which is, I think, fair to say. But yeah, when we saw him at the NFL level, it was, again, more of the same, more of him being able to just win on the outside, which we just don't see too often, especially young players. That's usually where you, I feel like takes some time to develop. Usually guys can, come in, if they're good as rookies, they can win over the middle and things like that. But winning on the outside, that's a little bit difficult. Takes a little bit more time to just learn all the technique and stuff. But Pickens looked like a seasoned vet out there. Right when this play begins, you see how right here, again, the corner starts to bail a little bit, has his hips turned towards the middle of the field and further deep at this point, making sure he doesn't get beat deep down the field. And Pickens, his physicality is definitely a real positive asset in his game. He is not afraid to create contact. I mean, it was very funny seeing some of those clips on YouTube last year during the draft process of him just like laying out guys blocking. Like usually wide receivers don't even block. They just sort of, them in the corner kind of have a mutual understanding of, hey, let's not, wear ourselves out blocking. Let's just sort of sit here. But like even in more subtle ways like this, but watch what he's going to do. Watch that just, little slight push-off. And again, part of it looked worse, a more aggressive push-off due to the fact that he cut so well and got the corner out of position, but also created a little bit of contact, which sometimes you don't have to do. Sometimes it actually could get you in trouble a little bit, but the refs tend to be pretty good at noticing when there's slight contact versus heavy contact. I know people are going to disagree. How could you say the refs are good? The refs are terrible. No, they're actually pretty good at this stuff. And they'll let you get away with a little bit, and that's what they'll let you get away with. And Pickens knows what he can get away with for the most part. So there's definitely a lot of real positive attributes in Pickens' game. But so why did he, if we're doing expectations versus reality, why did he exceed the expectations that were placed on him? Well, I think it's because he's just a bit of a unique player, and when you're a bit of a unique player, people are going to be more cautious when evaluating you and when drafting you. So for the Steelers, they're one of those teams where they kind of say, hey, if you have some issues, but you're a really talented receiver who has great potential and you're in round 2 or 3, we will draft you. And they've had consistent success with this strategy of getting receivers later on, getting receivers day 2, and developing them into very unique players, which is, again, people wonder, how did the Steelers always do this? I really think it's just, if you draft a bunch of receivers in rounds 2 and 3, you will get a bunch of good receivers. I think there's, it's a high hit rate position in that area, and people just don't necessarily pay attention to it as much as they should. So for the Steelers, they pay attention to it, and George Pickens feels like he is the next in a long list of great Steelers receivers who were not drafted in the first round. At least that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Pickens? Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.